Okay, so let's continue here. We're going to go ahead and continue detailing the stuff out. I'm going to take this edge and that edge that's right there, and I'm going to connect that one time. I'm going to move that connection down to about down here, just give it a little bit of spacing. I'm going to take those two edges right there, and I'm going to connect those, and I'm going to use the slide parameter here to give my spacing right there. I'm going to take this edge up here, this one down here. I'm going to connect that. About right there is okay. Alright, so if that's done, I'm going to select these three polygons. I'm going to extrude them out. Just move them slightly to overlap the piece of geometry right there a little bit. So now when I render this out, you can see that it actually looks like it's made up of separate parts. And giving it that separation right there helps to achieve that effect. Okay. All right. Now, if I look at my reference image here, you can see that we have this power button right here. And if I look at other images, let me see if I can find another one here. You can see clearly in this image that the other side has the exact symmetrical button. So there's two buttons that are exactly the same, just one's on the left and one's on the right. And this one, I can't really see the little symbol on it. It's probably the eject button, I'm not sure. This one's definitely the power button. But either way, the point is that there's two buttons and they're symmetrical and they're on opposite sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build one button. I'm going to pull up some reference here. It's zoomed in kind of close. Here's a pretty good piece of reference right here. You can see how the button is right there. I'm going to create that right now. And then I'm just going to symmetrize it over so I only have to do half the work. Okay, so let's get this done. So how are we going to do this? Well, the way we're going to do this is we're going to go ahead and first of all, let's go ahead and isolate this object here. This is going to make things a lot easier for us. We want to work with this piece of geometry here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the visibility and hide unselected, just so it makes it much easier for us to work. And then what I'm just going to do is I'm going to turn off ignore backfacing. I'm going to select all of these edges right here, okay? And I'm going to connect these one time. I'm going to take the slide, place it at 0, and hit OK. Then I'm going to go to my front view, and there's my edge. I'm just going to move it over and try to position it in the middle of the button in the image, in the background picture. You can see the button right there. Then I'm going to chamfer this. I'm going to check off the open, make sure that's turned off. That way it doesn't delete the polygons. Make sure it's just one segment. And we'll increase the chamfer amount until we have one edge at each end of the button and hit OK. I'm going to come back to my perspective view here. Okay, so we're starting to get the geometry set up for where the button is going to go. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take this top edge right there and that one right there. I'm going to connect that one time, and I'm going to slide this. And based on the image, I'm going to slide it about to right here maybe. It's pretty good. I'll hit OK. Alright, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this edge that's up here. I'm going to scale it out like this. So I get kind of a 45-degree angle edge right there on the corners. Alright, that's going to help me chamfer this out a lot better. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to take these vertices here that are at the corners of where my button's going to go. I'm going to chamfer those. And I'm going to chamfer them about maybe this much right here is pretty good. And hit OK. I'll use target weld to get rid of those extra vertices we have there. And with these vertices still selected here in the corners, we're going to chamfer one more time, about this much. Just make sure that the spacing between the vertices looks pretty even to give us more of a curved shape. Okay. So I'm going to take those two vertices there. I'm going to collapse those, and you see that I can't. So I'm just going to use the target weld tool and just target weld that stuff there, and that solves the problem. There we go. Okay. Now that I have my polygon there that looks like it's going to be used to get this thing done, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to select this edge and that edge and select their loop so it goes all the way around to the bottom. You can see that it didn't select these up here. That's okay. We'll go ahead and manually select those. It's not too many edges to pick anyway. So once we have those selected, all we need to do now is go to the chamfer tool and chamfer it a very small amount. We don't want to chamfer to a crazy amount. Just a small amount, something like this. Hit OK. Go to polygon mode, select these two polygons. I'm going to go up to my graphite modeling tools and select the loop. Should select the loop all the way around. You can see that it does. I'm going to go to the extrude tool options, and I'm going to extrude by local normal, and I'm going to extrude into itself like this. Okay, so the polygons are going into the geometry, and that's going to create that effect of a button that's separated from the rest of the geometry. If we're into this from a little bit of a distance, you can see that it's starting to look more like the button that we have in the picture. Okay, so now with that done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to polygon mode. I'm going to go to visibility. I'm going to tell it to unhide all polygons. Now the pivot point should be in the center of the object because we ripped off the polygons from the main object. Okay. What I'm going to do now is pretty simple. I'm just going to go to modifiers, mesh editing, grab myself a symmetry modifier, symmetrize this in the x-axis, but I'm going to flip it. And there we go. It created the button on the other side. So now we have both of our buttons, as you can see clearly right there in the render. Looks pretty good. Okay, awesome. I'm going to collapse the modifier stack. And I'm going to exit isolation mode. Alright. I'm going to look at my image again to see what else I can create here. And let me go to another image. Right here we can see that there's a centerpiece here. That's the actual disc tray that opens up where you place your Blu-ray discs. Okay, we have to go ahead and do something there to make that look separate. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this edge that's right here in the middle. I'm going to select its loop, so make sure the whole loop is selected. And I'm going to go to chamfer, and I'm going to chamfer with one segment. And I'm just going to go ahead and just increase the amount of chamfer on this to something that looks good. So if I look at my image, it looks like it's pretty wide, and then we have this part and this part at the ends. So with the image open, I'm going to go ahead and chamfer that to about maybe that much. Looks pretty good right there. And actually what I should be doing is using my front view here. My front view will actually give me a more accurate view here of how far I have to go. So about this far looks pretty good. Okay. Alright. I'll hit OK. And with those edges still selected, I'm going to chamfer them one more time. But this time I'm going to chamfer them a very small amount. If I go to my front view here, I know it's not perfectly accurate. That's just because the image has distortion, perspective distortion. So I'm just going to go ahead and chamfer it about that much. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to go back to my perspective view. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select some polygons here. I'm going to select those polygons. I'm going to come to the other side. Select those polygons, and I'm going to go to the graphite modeling tools and select the loop. And just check, make sure it did select the loop, and it did in my case. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude this in on itself by the local normal. Go to see-through mode, makes it a little bit easier to see what's going on underneath the surface here. And I'll just extrude it in on itself like that. And there we go. Now it looks like it's a separate piece. So if we render this out, looking pretty good. Alright, again, this isn't going to be the centerpiece of our scene, of our house. So as long as it looks like it's got medium detail, it'll look pretty good when you render this out. So I got the important details done in the front. Okay, that was probably the most complicated part. I'm going to go ahead and close this video here, and in the next one we're going to finish this thing off.